What's up, guys? Your old pal CHH here. So as you guys know, I rebranded to do stuff just like this, talk about other genres, and I am a die-hard action movie fan. Nothing to me was better than 80s and 90s action. It's like the practicality that was with horror with special effects was with the same intensity of action back in the day. And I wanted to go through a list of titles for a part one, because obviously I'd like to do more of these, of 4K and Blu-ray releases of action films I really love. You'll have to forgive me that I haven't maybe dove into all the special features and whatnot on every release that I have here, but I am a big fan of a lot of these titles, so I want to talk about them. So let's start right here. 89, Tango and Cash. This movie is hysterical on so many levels because Stallone plays like the classy, almost, he's like a banker type of cop. He dresses really well. Kurt Russell is the real spunky, like street hip cop, jeans and cowboy boots, cusses in court. But it's the supporting cast that really gets it. Robert Starr has an amazing scene in this. Clint Howard has a funny scene with Stallone in the jail. One of the crazier jail movies, too, because they get put in prison for a crime that they don't commit because the drug, lord wants to put them away as opposed to killing them, because if they kill them, that they know that the cops will stop at nothing to get the people that did it. But if they put them away, they can continue their kind of stuff to go on. It's actually a really smart movie. Big budget, really entertaining. Tango and Cash. There's been talks about a sequel for so long, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen, and I don't really need it to happen. But this Blu-ray is pretty bare bones, but I will say that it is absolutely hysterical, and you got to have it. This really deserves a 4K. I really hope that this eventually does get a 4K, but Tango and Cash is a home run if I've ever seen one. Love this movie. Next up, my wife would kill me if I didn't put any Bruce Willis on this list. Fifth Element. It's like a really weird sci-fi movie, but it's so funny to me. I love this movie. It took me a while to really fall in love with it, too. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I had to watch it a few times. I thought it was weird and silly, and it really is still, but this movie is whacked out. It's really entertaining, and I think only Bruce Willis could have pulled this off. Bruce has that ability to just do these movies that can cross over that even unlike I think Schwarzenegger couldn't do. I think Bruce is able to tap into an even quirkier element, no pun intended, with movies like this. I got this steelbook years and years ago. It was like this cool thing, like pop art. Like there was this big swing of things going on with steelbooks at the time. This is from like around 2016, but love this movie. Awesome Blu-ray. Fifth Element. Gotta have that in your collection. Alright, so we talk about 80s action. It doesn't get much better than Invasion USA. This is a Scream Factory Blu-ray. This is what I'm talking about. 80s action, when I think about it, man, it's about grown-ass men kicking ass. This was a 45-year-old man in 1985. Chuck Norris, Invasion USA, Joe Zito directing. One man against an army. And it's just testosterone to the 10th degree. Invasion USA very well may be one of the absolute greatest action films of the decade, period. And I say that knowing wholeheartedly what's from the decade. But this movie, if you watch it once, you're going to say to yourself, holy crap, what a badass action film. Norris is at his best. This is Canon Films at their best. And Shout Factory, they put this out. This is a good title. I don't know if it's still in print, but get that Canon DVD set that's at Walmart right now, and it comes with Electric Boogaloo. I believe that it has this movie in it. Just get it. Trust me. You cannot go wrong with Invasion USA. Absolute masterpiece. Love it. The special features on here: new audio commentary with Joe Zito, interview with the writer James Brunner, special makeup effects artist Tom Savini. How about that? Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero, and theatrical trailer and TV spots. Amazing film. Could be the best action film on this list. Next, we got to go with this. Death Wish 1, 2, and 3. Now, Death Wish 1, in a lot of ways, is just a good movie. It's just a really good movie. It tells us tale. It tells us tale about guns in America, and a movie about a guy who, gets a gun, wasn't into guns really, and uses it to not only protect himself but to become a vigilante of the law because he's sick of seeing criminals get away with stuff. It's a compelling movie. The original Death Wish is actually just a really good film, and I love it a lot. This is just a straight-up Paramount Blu-ray. I don't know if Death Wish has a 4K or anything, but this Blu-ray is what I got. Amazing film. And Pizzle would kill me if I did not mention these. The Death Wish 2 and 3. Now, I own a better version of Death Wish 3, but for a lot of you, if you don't have these movies, this would be perfectly fine. This is the Umbrella Entertainment, and this works in American players, even though it's a Region B. Death Wish 2 and 3. These are Canon firing on all cylinders. Again, no pun intended, but this is Canon Pictures at their nastiest, at their dirtiest, and in a lot of ways at their best. Canon Films killed it with these two movies. There's 4 and 5. Maybe we'll put that in a part 2, but I highly recommend this release if you don't own these movies on Blu-ray and you want to get them, because you can get the, I think it's the Ronin Flicks Part 3, and that is a 2K scan Blu-ray. But these look good. They look really good. There's good special features on here. And these two movies are, without a doubt, amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. They really go for it in a lot of dark subject matter, but the vigilante revenge that Bronson gets is so worth it, and it is amazing. High rewatch value. Death Wish 2 and 3 are legendary films for a reason. They are two of the greatest action films ever, and Bronson just gets it done. So you got to have Death Wish in there. Let's talk about my boy Van Damme. I am a Van Damme fanatic. I didn't do a ton of Van Damme in here because I want to talk more about it. But Universal Soldier, in a lot of ways, was a saving grace for not only Jean-Claude, well, not necessarily Jean-Claude. He was still on the uprising and doing good, but Lundgren was in desperate need of a hit. Because if you really look at his career, he hadn't done too much amazing stuff past Rocky IV, and some stuff that should have been big just ended up not being really big, even though it's got a big fan base now. Masters of the Universe is for one. But he did a movie before this that was actually really good. It was called Showdown in Little Tokyo. I guess I should have put that in this list, but I'll put it in the next one. But this 4K of Universal Soldier is amazing. This looks great. This is one of the most kick-ass action films. Good humor, punctuated nice pieces of humor throughout it, but not overbearing. It knows what it is. It's an action film with two action giants, Van Damme and Lundgren, and there's some funny moments in there. But this movie is amazing. I can't recommend this 4K enough. If you don't have it, just go ahead and get the 4K. If you want the Steelbook, see if you can. If not, just get the release. But this movie is kick-ass. 1992. We were still in the golden era of action right there. And I got to talk about Street Fighter. I love this movie. The thing about this release is this isn't the greatest Blu-ray transfer, true, but how do you not love this? First of all, look at this art on here. I mean, just look at that, and then look at the back with Bison. Oh my God. And then the coolest thing is it comes with a Bison dollar. I love Street Fighter. The stories behind the scenes are what's the most legendary thing about it, you know, with Van Damme basically doing like $10,000 of cocaine a week. Not shooting on set till like 4 in the evening because he has to pump his muscles up. But this film is hysterical. It's one of my favorites. It's a childhood favorite. I used to wear the VHS out on this. But this Steelbook is so amazing. I mean, you really just gotta own it. I mean, look at that. It's impeccable. And then I love these kinds of Steelbooks that have like the sleeves where they add art and take it away. So even though I'm not the biggest Steelbook collector, whenever these kinds of Steelbooks come out from, I guess that's Lionsgate, right? This is Mill Creek, but Lionsgate does it too. I always grab these. These are amazing. So get that if you can. I love Street Fighter. My favorite part about Street Fighter is when Chun-Li is like talking about how she wants to get revenge and stop Bison, and then Van Damme is like, this war is not about your own personal vendetta. And then like you're supposed to think he means like we got to do this for all of mankind. Then he goes, it's about mine. It's just ridiculous. Let's keep going with some Van Damme. Got to talk about Double Impact. Now this is one that is, what I love about it is it's not really risque is the word, but like it's kind of daring. Like Van Damme plays himself as a twin in this, with two very different, distinct personalities, and he pulls it off. And again, Balo Young, one of the greatest villains of martial arts ever, is the villain in here. I mean, you cannot go wrong with Balo Young. So Double Impact is great. This MVD release is really good. They did a kick-ass job. This movie looks great, and they usually give you posters. Yeah, they give you posters. So if you want to get these movies, this is classic Van Damme. Van Damme at his peak. Double Impact. This was 91. 91 or 92. This might have been right before Universal Soldier. I'm not sure. It's been a while since. I used to have these dates memorized. But a great Blu-ray, a lot of special features, a lot of retrospectives, a lot of vintage retrospectives with Van Damme, feature-length documentary stuff. Great release. Double Impact is classic action at its finest. When action movies were action films and they were blowing shit up and guys were jumping stuff, and great villains like Balo Young. Cannot go wrong with Balo. Balo is a legend. And a couple more Van Dammes. We got to talk about Lionheart. Now, this was a movie that was just like Van Damme in his wheelhouse. He needs to be, in a wrestling terms, the babyface guy. He needs to be the good guy, very sympathetic, but a kick-ass martial artist. And Lionheart is a display of his talent in a sense because, this movie's about him trying to get to America because his brother gets killed in a drug war, basically, and he wants to go take care of his brother's family because he had a wife and a daughter, and they're left with nothing. And so he goes and fights in these underworld fight gangs to raise money for his brother's wife and kids. But there's like this weird thing about this movie where it seems like Van Damme is basically trying to date his brother's wife. Like they don't talk about it, or really it's just really implied, which is funny. But the thing about Lionheart that's so good is the music, and the action sequences are just kick-ass fighting, and there's some hysterical stuff. They have great personalities in this movie. Van Damme's buddy in this film is hysterical. He's like an ex-fighter, really comedic guy. Really good way of showing like the city life, like just the decay of urban plight, of just like everybody struggling to make a living in this movie. Like they display all that really well. Again, this is MVD as well. Kick-ass release. Great special features, a lot of making ofs, commentaries, interviews. These MVD releases are just money. Can't say enough good things about them. One more Van Damme. I'm actually going to go different here. I'm going to go with The Quest because The Quest is a big budget blood sport. Not as good as Bloodsport, but it's a big budget. It's a big budget Bloodsport. And the thing I like about The Quest is the set pieces are just gorgeous. The cast is really good. Now, there's a lot of drama behind the scenes of this movie. Van Damme directed this movie. This was at the height of his career, but kind of really past it. This movie underperformed. It cost way too much to make. But the movie, the budget is on screen at the same time. Van Damme needed a lot of help. I think he was struggling with a lot of drugs at this time, and Hollywood life really was getting to him. But The Quest was a film that was a lot of drama behind the scenes too. I think Frank Dukes might have sued him for the script of this because it was basically, there's a lot of litigation. I could go into that, but nevertheless, the set designs are immaculate in this movie. The budget gets on screen. It looks like an expensive film. It is an expensive film. It's an adventure action film. And I actually really highly recommend The Quest. Once you get to the fight sequences at the end especially, it's gorgeous. There's great athletes in this. This is when they used real martial artists in this era. So this is a great one, guys. Pick up this Blu-ray for The Quest. I can't recommend that one enough. It's a little underrated. I don't like using those terms, as you know, but I really don't know what else to say. Now let's go back to Stallone for a minute. You got to go with Cobra. I mean, Jesus Christ. Cobra is... The story is he wanted to do Beverly Hills Cop. He got the script for Beverly Hills Cop. He says, we can do this movie, but I'm Xing out all the comedy. We're going to make this serious. And the producer's like, no, we're making a comedy. So Stallone said, well, I'm out. He basically turned that into Cobra. Beverly Hills Cop happened. The whole world was right. Cobra is like basic. Some people call this a slasher film. And I can see that argument all day. I don't quibble over definition too much. There's one thing for sure. It's certainly an action film. And this movie has great soundtracks. Robert Tepper's back. He did No Easy Way Out from Rocky IV. He does Living in the City. Angel of the City, not Living in the City. Brigitte Nielsen's in here, who was his wife at the time, which ended in tragedy. He was only married to her for like a year and some change. There's a 40-year-old Stallone marrying like a 19-year-old girl. She was gorgeous, but yeah, that wasn't going to work out. But Cobra, nonetheless, great villain. Great theme, serious action, just money. Cannot say enough good things. This is actually the Scream Factory Blu-ray, 2K scan from original film elements, an interview with Brian Thompson, an interview with Marco Rodriguez, Feel the Heat, an interview with actor Andy Robinson, Double Cross, an interview with actress Lee Garlington. A Work of Art, an interview with actress Art LaFleur. Audio commentary with the director. Vintage featurettes, teaser trailer, theatrical trailer, and still gallery. This is a good looking Blu-ray. There is like a standard Blu-ray you can get, but I actually really recommend the Scream Factory one. This is actually a collector's edition too. Masterpiece, Cobra. Masterpiece of 80s action. That would, if I ever did like a top 10 action films, that very well could be like in my top 10. So shout out to my friend Kyle. I gotta throw this out there, guys. In Search of the Last Action Heroes is actually really awesome. It's a great documentary. It's not necessarily a year-by-year thing. They just go through a ton of great action, and I highly recommend it. It's actually a really, really good documentary. This movie is my favorite Schwarzenegger film, which is kind of spoiling it if I ever did like a top 10 Schwarzenegger movies, but I don't care. Last Action Hero. This 4K is actually really good too. It's actually gorgeous. It's an amazing looking 4K, which makes me happy because it is my favorite Schwarzenegger film. If you haven't seen this, it's one of the most amazing, like, smart movies ever. It's meta in a sense like I'd never seen. A kid is in love with this movie called Jack Slater, the series, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is Jack Slater. And the kid gets a golden ticket, but it puts him into the movie, and so he's in the Jack Slater world. And then he has to figure out how to stop the bad guys, and he becomes part of the movie. They go back into the real world, and there's great scenes where you see Jack Slater in the real world, where he runs into the real Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a very expensive movie. It's hysterical. It was a little ahead of its time, quite honestly. And it also went up against Jurassic Park, so even though this movie didn't massively flop, it wasn't super successful, but Schwarzenegger said this was a massive passion project for him, and it's clearly on screen. This is my #1 Schwarzenegger film, and I wholeheartedly mean that, so I got nothing but love for Last Action Hero. Amazing 4K. They're actually reissuing the Steelbook if you want to get that, but I'm totally fine with this 4K. I don't need the Steelbook. I like the art of this 4K anyway, so... The most underrated movie, I'm just going to use the term. You know what? Screw it. But this is the most underrated movie on this list. Brawl in Cell Block 99 is without a doubt one of the most amazing Vince Vaughn movies I've ever seen, one of the most amazing action films I've ever seen, and one of the best action films in like the last 15, 20 years. Super under the radar. Vince Vaughn is so amazing in this movie, your jaw will drop. So good. I can't recommend this 4K enough. I can't recommend this movie enough. Just see it if you haven't seen it. But I had to put this on this list because this movie is easily one of the best action films in the last 15 years. Maybe even 20. It's that good. It's that good. My God, this movie is good. Schwarzenegger again. This is classic Red Heat. Cocaine. Him and Jim Belushi. John Belushi's brother, I think. Good movie. This was like Schwarzenegger before he went supernova. Well, that's not true. By 88, he was a big star. But I just really like this movie. I guess what it is I feel it's not top 5 for most people's, but Red Heat is really funny. I like it a lot. This was a good-looking 4K from what I remember. And this was pretty cheap. I remember getting it at Walmart for maybe $9 or $10. It was like super cheap. Maybe it was just on sale when I got it. But I think I remember getting it like not long after it came out. So if you haven't seen that one, this is an easy blind purchase for you. Red Heat is great. But yeah, I guess he was already a massive star by this point. It's just that it feels like it's not when you watch it. You feel like this is almost like underground Schwarzenegger to me. Maybe I'm just putting that into my own head. So a couple more, guys. I got to throw Starship Troopers in here. For this 4K actually blew me away. I was not expecting it to look as good as it did. It actually looked amazing. I had never seen this movie before, so when I watched it a few years ago, I was blown away by how much I loved it. Starship Troopers is a freaking masterpiece of sci-fi action. It's hysterical. It pushes the boundaries. I like the sequel. I haven't seen part 3, but Starship Troopers is amazing, and this 4K is actually like 5 out of 5 picture quality. It's amazing. And then I got to give it up to Blade. I reviewed this movie. I finally watched this not long ago. I hadn't seen Blade for some reason, and I finally watched it like 2 or 3 years ago. It might have been right before COVID. This movie is freaking awesome. Is part 2 better? Maybe so. Maybe so. I got to get part 2 on 4K. I don't think it came out on 4K. I have it on Blu-ray, but I'd have to rewatch again. But the opening sequence to Blade has my favorite opening sequence of the series. The opening sequence of this is insane, and Blade just whips everybody's ass. This was a great looking 4K. I pre-ordered this because I was such a big fan of the movie. So if you don't have this on 4K, massive recommend. It's gorgeous. Late 90s action, still peak era. Awesome. And of course, if you don't have the Rambo set, you got to get that greatest set. I know it's out of print, but either get the Rambo films on 4K or just pay the money and get that set. I promise you it's worth it. But that is like a first episode of massive action recommends for me. I'm such a big action movie fan. Let me know your thoughts on those titles. Let me know which ones you have and give me recommendations for part 2. I freaking love 80s and 90s action. So today we had to take a horror break to talk about the greatness of classic action. Thank you guys for watching this. We'll see you next time. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, and music, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.